Hey, how you doing? It's Greg from Digital Lifestyle Adventure. It is Tuesday, and we're in the second week of lockdown here because of the coronavirus. And I'm coming to you with another update to my Driving to Work series. Okay? So the focus of this channel, it's somewhat evolving because it's a new channel. But the focus of this channel is business, investment, real estate in the digital age. Okay? I'm in real estate. I've been involved in real estate for many years. I've got a lot of experience, over 25 years of experience in business and investment, having been a former investment banker. So I thought that these topics would match up the best with my skill set and allow me to add the most value. Okay, to all of you YouTube watchers out there. Yes. So anyway, I wanted to talk a little bit today about the ongoing dispute. We've been, close to a week and a half in lockdown. So, I'm actually driving to work. I'm going to attempt to go into the office. Who knows? I might get arrested on the way in, but I was just going crazy being locked up in my house. So had to get a change of scene, so I'm trying it, and it gives me the opportunity to do another update for you guys. So before I go, let me just tell you that the topic for today: medical argument versus economic argument. Which one will win? Okay? Let's take a drive. Alright, so we're all sitting here locked down in our houses. The state of New Jersey, which is where I live, the governor announced over the weekend shutting down all non-essential businesses, except, and I love this, liquor stores and medical marijuana dispensaries. I love that. That's perfect. Among other, essential stores like food stores and things of that nature. But everything else is shut down. Okay? More broadly, nationally, as you know, everything is shut down. People are asked or required to stay in their homes. The economy has essentially completely shut down, and people, including the stock market, is realizing, even though there's been a sell-off for some time in the stock market, people are realizing, holy simoleons, this could actually, cause not only a recession, but maybe a depression, the D word. So naturally, those that aren't in the medical profession are starting to question, is bludgeoning the economy with a blunt instrument, i.e. closing everything down, is it warranted given the health risk? Okay, that's the basic question. And people generally fall into two categories. Either they accept and buy into the purely medical analysis, which says that everybody has to be, in order to eradicate this disease, everybody has to be isolated and kept at home so that they don't pass around the disease and many more people don't die from it. And then there's the economic argument that says basically that the government has basically implemented a self-imposed shutdown of the economy, which is causing untold financial distress in literally every industry you can think of, from airlines, hospitality, restaurants. And I personally am in the real estate business, and more specifically, I'm very involved in financing commercial real estate. And basically there's been a recognition that if this continues for any period of time, the mortgage industry and the mortgage market is going to go into a complete meltdown, along with the rest of the commercial and residential real estate markets. So once all of this reality is realized by a lot of people, particularly the policymakers, and these people are pretty smart people, people are beginning to question, is assaulting the economy with a blunt object, a bazooka, an atomic bomb, so to speak, flattening the entire economy, worth the realistic health risks that we're talking about? Okay, now, I'm not a health expert. I'm a business, investment, and real estate expert. But, if you just use common sense and observation, it appears to me that the severe health risks that come along with this virus are largely related to people who have compromised immunological systems for one reason or another, or they have pulmonary disease unrelated to the virus, like COPD, emphysema, any number of pulmonary diseases, or they have heart disease, or they are undergoing chemotherapy or under some other type of treatment for a disease that would compromise their immunological system, and therefore they are at high risk for this virus. Okay, so, but it also seems at the same time like the average person, the average healthy individual, whether they be young or old, I've heard many anecdotal stories about people who have had it and they really didn't get that sick. Okay, so it leads one to the natural question, is what these governments and politicians is the actions that they're taking warranted, or are they overdone and partially out of a panic and not out of an actual analysis of risk benefits? Now, most people will say, oh, well, it's not worth one death to save a job or to have a business continue and provide employment and keep the economy going. And I realize that some people would say this is not a moral equivalency, but I would say, under that argument, let's close down the highways then, because hundreds of thousands of people die each year on the highway. So, I would just shut down all commerce and all truck traffic, all cars, so that because one person dying on the highway is not worth it. Now, I'm sure, people will, once they hear this analogy, will react violently against what I'm saying, but and I don't intend to make an exact analogy. Okay, they're not morally equivalent, right? And I 100% believe, and obviously, if it were any of my family members or just anybody, just humanity from a human standpoint, nobody wants to see anybody die from anything, let alone a virus that's preventable. But I think people are starting to realize, and I had predicted this several weeks ago, that there's basically a medical analysis of this pandemic, and then there's an economic analysis of this pandemic. So far, up to this point, both in Washington and on a state level, the medical argument has won. Complete isolation, shut everything down. Kids, shut the schools down, shut all businesses down that aren't necessary. Everybody just sit in their homes and twiddle their thumbs, and we'll beat this thing. Okay, that's the medical argument. The economic argument that's emerging now, and I knew it would because I knew Americans weren't going to stand for this for very long when they don't really perceive it's as big a threat as the news media is saying to the average person. The economic argument is, let's quarantine people who should be quarantined. Let's improve the testing. Let's find out where, like New York City, for example, where the pandemic really is a severe threat, and more in a surgical way, on a case-by-case basis, isolate, shut down, to take all the precautions, social distancing, all the precautions necessary to slow down and eliminate the threat where the threat is severe. And I think over the next couple of days, that is going to be the prevailing wisdom that's going to emerge from all this. And I think it makes sense, because I really feel like shutting down everything everywhere is just bludgeoning the problem rather than doing a more of a sensible approach. And because of that realization that's beginning to emerge, and also the realization that the government, first of all, the Fed has basically signaled that they're going to do whatever it takes to prevent a depression, okay? A la Mario Draghi a few years ago in Europe, when he said he's going to do whatever it takes. So you have floods of liquidity coming in from the Fed. They're buying all kinds of securities. I heard they may start buying equity securities, which in my mind is completely ridiculous, but they're trying to prevent dislocation in the ETF market. But they're flooding massive amounts of liquidity into the system. Meanwhile, you have over $1 trillion aid package that's winding its way through Congress in its usual pathetic, politically pandering way. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are showing their true colors as usual and turning this pandemic into a political wrestling match where they're trying to get all their political pork and their ridiculous agendae, completely unrelated to the crisis, into the bill. All of their ridiculous spending programs and social engineering, and I heard that they were trying to get certain aspects of the Green New Deal in there, which is reprehensible and ridiculous and counterproductive. But that's what they do. They exist to push their political agenda, appease their base, and reward the unions. Don't forget the unions, because the Democratic Party is basically controlled by the public sector unions at this point, because that's where a lot of their funding comes from. So anyway, I always say not to get political, because I don't want to get too political on this channel, because it's a business-oriented channel. So this is where it's coming down. The medical argument versus the economic argument. The answer is you need a little bit of both, because obviously we don't want this thing spiraling out of control and causing more damage than it has to. But on the other hand, we don't want to shoot ourselves in the foot with all these government mandates, completely shut the economy down, and have 25% unemployment and going to a depression, right? So I think ultimately cooler heads will prevail, and we'll end up with some kind of a hybrid. But it was inevitable that they would back off of this initial bludgeoning that they did with the economy. So anyway, that's how I see it today. I'd be anxious to hear, what you guys think. I'm sure I'll get some messages that say, oh, you don't care about people, and you want people to die. No, that's not true. I'm not an advocate of that. I'm saying clearly that there needs to be a balance. Okay? The pendulum swung too far the one way. Others would take it too far the other way. It's got to meet in the middle. It's got to be something that makes rational sense. All right? Now, one thing before I have to go, because I'm getting close to the office, as we hit these railroad tracks that I hit every day. A lot of people have asked me, what to do in this market sell-off. And I just have really two comments. One is, if you have a, and I was just having this conversation with my partner the other day. If you have a significant amount of your net worth in the stock market currently, and you have a lot of positions that in good companies that you're generally happy with, I would not sell to any great extent at the bottom of the market here. If raising some cash will make you sleep better at night, you can do that, but by no means should you sell your entire portfolio and get out of the market at this point in time. Everybody that did that in 2008 lived to regret it. If you do it now, I believe you're going to live to regret it. So you're just going to have to busy yourself with something else and not obsess on it, and bite the bullet and realize that this too shall pass. And when the market comes back, it's going to come back in a very dramatic fashion, I believe. This is a temporary thing, and the objective should be of these governments to limit the economic downturn, so that when the economy recovers, it comes back very strong. The other thing is, if you're sitting on a lot of cash, or if you're sitting on some cash, one thing that you might want to look at, unless you're very sophisticated with individual stocks, which most people aren't, probably most people listening to this are not. If you consider yourself, even if you do consider yourself sophisticated, I would be looking at the S&P 500 spiders and the QQQ, which is essentially the NASDAQ 100. And, pick a point where you think sentiment is uniformly negative, or really any time in this sell-off. If you want to put some cash to work, those are two indexes that you could buy. One, the S&P 500, is the broad market, and the QQQ again is the NASDAQ 100, which is basically the large technology stocks primarily on the NASDAQ. Microsoft, Facebook, Intel, Apple, those types of companies, which are very solid companies, Google, and will come back strongly when the market turns around. Okay, so that's all I have today. I'm getting close to the office here, so take it easy, keep a positive attitude, don't panic, take care of yourself and your family, and we'll see you next time. If you liked this post, or if you like anything on this channel, please subscribe, hit the subscribe button, and also hit the like, because we have to keep Google happy with their the way they look at these posts. They love that like button, the Google algorithm, and so we have to keep feeding the Google algorithm so I can get more views and I can continue to make videos which hopefully you enjoy. Okay? So take care, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.